Welcome back to the Late Late Podcast. I'm your host, Mase in real life. This mic feels really high, but we're good. So when I started this, you were one of the first people on my list.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, like long time ago.
Well, geez, I hope I don't disappoint you.
No, man, I'm excited. So I got Josh Bravener here.
Yeah.
You know, it's awesome. Like you've been doing some crazy stuff.
You know, just out there grinding.
Yeah, that's all you can do, right?
That's all you can do.
So you want to tell the listeners and the watchers a little bit about yourself? Like I know a little bit, but let them.
Yeah, I am Josh Bravener. I front a band in Fredericton called The Hypochondriacs. We are a 6-piece, genre-less group. Lots of people ask what kind of music we play, and I just kind of tell them it's whatever, we're feeling kind of is what we play. I basically write music. I wrote music to listen to music that I want to hear. You know what I mean?
Okay, yeah.
Because there's country music, there's rock and roll, there's blues, there's folk, there's gospel. There's like all this kind of like inspiration for me that like that I just kind of made in this melting pot. You know, we just say rock and roll or Americana just to breeze over the question sometimes, but it's a little bit everything. Yeah, started out as an Elvis impersonator with Dad. There's a lot to know, you know?
That was a while ago too, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're getting old.
Oh, yeah.
And I think you're younger than me, but we're getting up there. So yeah, like when did you kind of like decide to start writing music?
I can actually pinpoint a couple instances that were pivotal for me to kind of like go from the Elvis impersonating world into kind of doing my own thing. Mm-hmm. So when I got into high school, I kind of dropped the music thing like grade 9 because at that point I was solely doing Elvis impersonations.
Yeah.
And it was just like the gag of it was kind of over for me. It was fun, but I was, getting older and I didn't want to sing to backing tracks, karaoke tracks anymore. I didn't want to do my hair and makeup, It's 'cause it is a performance. You're on stage, you want to look as much like Elvis as you possibly can, which for someone who looks like me, takes a little bit of smoke and mirrors, eyeshadow and whatever. Lots of hairspray and gel. And, I just I loved it. I loved doing it. I loved doing it with my dad. It was a really, special part of my growing up. Mm-hmm. But I'll never forget, Dad was like, hey, can you just come to me to this show? I think it was in, I want to say Woodstock, New Brunswick at a school or something in the auditorium. You just come and just come up and do a few songs. You don't need to do backing tracks. You can bring your guitar and we'll plug in your guitar and you can just sing Elvis songs. I said, okay, I'll do that. So I, the era of Elvis that I performed in, it didn't like wear the big suits or anything. I was more like the tuxedo kind of blazer, nice shirt underneath, like a rockabilly shirt. And I got up there, minimal makeup, slicked back my hair and got up and I just started singing Elvis songs with me and my guitar. That was the first time I had done that in front of people, really. Mm-hmm. And I was like, holy shit, this feels so good. This is what I want to do. Like that feeling of like performing and not relying on a karaoke track felt so good. So that kind of like reignited a passion for me. The passion of playing music and singing and whatever. Because I always loved it. I've always been, musical. And then I remember, I think it was in grade 11. So what was that, 2010, 2011?
2010, yeah.
And my dad was an instructor. We had like an enrichment program for the artistic kids at Leo Hayes and FHS. And every Wednesday morning we would all get together and we would collaborate as musicians. So there was musicians, there were like writers, like poetry and novels, and there was also visual artists. So just like a bunch of different artists, and we would all get together and then we would disperse and the musicians would all go together. And that's how I like kind of became friends with all these, musicians now. They're touring and stuff now that were in school with me. Mm-hmm. But there was a song that Dad, played for us. And it's a song that you can take anyway. It's a song called Dark Was the Night, Cold Was the Ground. It's by a guy named Blind Willie Johnson.
Okay.
And so it's an old blues song from I'm not even trying to attempt to say the year it was. I don't know, but it's an old blues song.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no words. There's vocals. It's mostly like humming and hawing and moaning. And there's guitar.
Okay.
And he played that, and he goes, I want you guys to write something inspired by this piece of music. So we got talking, who was Blind Willie Johnson? What is this song? And the story goes is Blind Willie Johnson, as a young boy, him and his dad had a really close relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And his dad ended up remarrying this woman, and she was super jealous of her father, or his father and his relationship. So to kind of try and sabotage it, she threw lye in his eyes, causing him to go blind. So he wasn't born blind.
Okay.
So Blind Willie Johnson, grew up to be blind, became a preacher and a very influential songwriter as well. So I kind of wrote this song surrounding that story called Dark Was the Night.
Mm-hmm.
And it got really good feedback. I put it on my first ever album. And even to this day, we're going to reintroduce it into the Hypochondriacs set. But that was kind of my first go at writing something original, other than like stupid little jingles that I wrote in my bedroom. But like this was like the first time that I was like, okay, I'm going to write a song. And then you get that bug, right? Yeah. Oh man, how many more songs can I write? What kind of songs do I want to write? And that's kind of how that transition period happened. Yeah.
That's crazy though.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's intense because, so this is something that you guys are going to try to like, not rewrite, but like kind of.
Yeah, we've been jamming it a bit.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah, it was actually, it's crazy. The song has such an impact on me because before we were the Hypochondriacs, we were just Josh Bravener.
Mm-hmm.
And then Keegan Manson Curry, a wicked fiddle player, him and I were freaking out over germs one day before a gig because our other singer at the time, she had the stomach flu the day before, so we were kind of freaking out. And then this whoever was hosting the show, I want to say, my memory might be serving me wrong, but I want to say it was the FHS prom.
Okay.
And they asked us, what should we call you guys? And I was like, Josh Bravener, and then Keegan goes, and the Hypochondriacs, as a joke.
All right.
But then it just kind of stuck.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we were kind of like this folk, banjo, upright bass, pedal steel, fiddle kind of group called Josh Bravener, and then to become Josh Bravener and the Hypochondriacs. Fast forward, I don't know, I want to say a year or something, and we're booked for a gig at the Capitol. Just starting out.
Yeah.
Playing shows at the Capitol, and the only people that could make the gig were me, my brother Aaron, who was drumming at the time, and Jamie Guitar, who's still playing bass with me now. And I played banjo in the band, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna. The rehearsal place I was rehearsing at only had an electric guitar to use, and Jamie only brought his electric bass just because it's easier to lug around. Mm-hmm. And we played "Dark Was the Night," and we did it electric. And it was like, I remember it stopped and we were all like, holy shit, that was fucking awesome. That felt so good. Yeah. Then from like that moment on, it was like, we're going Bob Dylan electric, baby. And then that's just kind of how it happened. And then, started introducing more singers, horns.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cause you guys got like, what did you say? Six?
Six of us. Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. I've got Kelly Waterhouse on saxophone, Janine Gallant on the trombone, Jamie Guitar on bass, Connor Fox, who's a fucking monster on guitar.
Crazy.
And then Andrew DeMerchant on drums.
Okay, that's cool. That's exciting, man. Frig. And the Cap was like your first gig as the Hypochondriacs, or no?
I don't know what the first gig was. There was lots of band talk, but I think one of the driving factors to drop the Josh Bravener bit was like, we did want to be seen as more of a band rather than my band. Mm-hmm. As much as I still consider it my baby, my project, we are a group. Mm-hmm. I do write the songs, but the songs would not be anything like they are without the group, the machine, if you will. And also, when we would, I think it was Folly Fest, one of the organizers, it was either Paul or Mike, were like, man, your band name's really hard to fit on a poster. So I said, I'll just put the Hypochondriacs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I suppose shorten it a little bit. Yeah. And even the Hypochondriacs is still a good link.
I've had a couple instances where these drunk guys will come out of the crowd and be like, man, you need to change your band name. You'll never get anywhere with a name like the Hypochondriacs. Like, whatever, man.
Is that recent or like?
One was recent and one wasn't.
Because you should have just told them like some of the stuff you've done since.
Yeah.
I mean? Like I was like coming up to this, like getting you on here was I kind of like did a little research and like, man, like there's a list. Like it's a list of stuff, right?
I've been trying to be just as busy as possible, you know.
Yeah. Like Texas for what is it? SX
South by Southwest.
Yeah.
Yeah, so South by Southwest is it's just a huge art week. So it covers everything from like, you know, music to comedy to film, to visual art, like everything. And there's so many people there. It's in Austin, Texas.
Yep.
So it's our first time ever playing in the US, which is pretty sick.
Yeah.
And we got invited down there from a festival out west called Breakout West.
Okay.
A representative came from Texas to see us, and they liked it. They said, "You want to come down to Texas?" We're like, "Fuck yeah!"
Yeah, you don't pass that up.
No.
No, I saw like I remember seeing, like you guys post it, and I was like, "This is crazy! Like, this is a big stage, right?" Like,
yeah, it's a whole city.
So it's like, is it like kind of like Harvest in a sense, like where it's like stages everywhere?
Yeah, but there's like no, like from what I saw, it was just happening in bars. All the bars had live music. So the Canada House stage where we played and showcased was at a place called Swan Dive. And that was a really, really cool bar. It had an inside stage and outside stage. It was like staggered performances by different Canadian bands.
Okay.
Yeah, which is cool. And like it was crazy because there's like, I don't know if you ever heard of this guy named Talk. He's really big on TikTok.
I think I have.
Yeah, he's like a really big dude. He wears overalls and he has that like song about Mars.
Yeah, I did. Yeah,
he played the same stage, and it's this tiny little stage. But like, I knew he was big because as soon as we like were leaving the venue to go to the next place, there was like he was just swarmed by like media.
Yeah,
but like here he is, like, and then I like looked him up afterwards. He's playing huge concerts. I think he opened up for like Shania Twain or something.
He just played in Montreal. Like he had his own, like it was massive.
Yeah,
and it's like it's crazy. And his Canadian, like you said, right?
Yeah,
and
so it's cool that like this conference in Texas, it's like you're just playing where you're playing, and it's an honor to go down. It really is.
Yeah,
yeah, it was just so cool to be invited down there.
It looked super fun.
Yeah.
And you guys had a tour, right? Or you're having it? No, you had
We just
a tour.
got back, yeah.
For the U.S. Like you did a little part of the U.S.
We did a little bit of the Eastern Seaboard, yeah. Down through Pennsylvania into Virginia.
Now, how was that? Was that like playing them type of places? Like, was it different?
Yeah, I mean, the festivals, it is different. The thing about people in the U.S. that I haven't really noticed about a lot of venues in Canada is they buy merch. It's insane. I don't know if they're excited that this band from Canada's coming down or what. We played like this like theater, and it was just like they were so supportive and like so just happy to have us there and just like getting us to sign absolutely everything. And you know, we played like this festival called the Red Wing Roots Festival, and that's in Virginia. And it was kind of the same thing. Like I've noticed that like, you know, a lot of festivals around here, they have their main stage and they have their side stages. Like we played a side stage at Cavendish Beach Festival one year, and like there was hardly anyone there. And then we played the smallest stage at this festival, and it was jam packed, let alone the main stage and the other big stage where like huge names are playing. Like people wanted to go see like the underdogs, and it was awesome. It was like it was such a cool, you know, experience. And it's not necessarily something I've noticed really happening around here, you know. So a lot of people just kind of wait for the headliners. But no, this place, I found the states were really, really supportive of, you know, just people coming and playing. Yeah. It's great.
So maybe it's like, I don't know, you guys do have like really good music. So maybe that's what it is. Maybe down there, that's more their niche.
Right, but they didn't know who we were.
Oh, okay, I suppose, yeah. Maybe they're like, we want to hear these guys. Maybe they got some good stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it was cool. We did have some people be like, no, I saw your name on the poster, and I thought I'd just give you a listen, and I liked it, so I decided to come.
Yeah.
I was like, that's cool,
Yeah.
They're like, I've never heard of them. I'm going to check them out. Maybe I'll like it. So
that's how I met, or how I started listening to Crown Lands.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I was going down St. John, and I saw that they were playing, and I was like, I'm going to check them out. Listen to them, and I was like, these guys are native and they sound good.
Yeah, right.
Well, one of them's native, so I was like, I'm gonna check them out. So down there, like, listening to them play, and like you guys too, I find there's a certain group of people that are in bands or musicians in general that when you listen to them live, it's better than they're recording. And you guys fall in that category because like your voice is spot on. Like the two girls that sing with you, like spot on. Like, I don't know. It's just everything about it is just.
Yeah, we've always struggled with how do you translate a live performance onto a recording? And I think some bands do it great. Mm-hmm. But, like for instance, and I'm not going to compare us to this band at all because we're nowhere near, but like take the Grateful Dead, for instance. Mm-hmm. Like they weren't a recording band. They have studio albums, but like they were a live music experience. And their studio albums are great.
Yeah.
But if like you listen to the Grateful Dead like I do, it's like these live performances were incredible.
Yeah.
Because every single one was different. And I think the Hypochondriacs kind of have a similar kind of just like MO, like idea that like we want to give just a really energetic live show, and we want people to be able to come back and watch it again and get something different out of it, maybe.
Yeah.
Because we only have so many songs, but we want people to keep coming back, right? So you gotta give them a show, and I attribute that totally to being an Elvis impersonator as well, because when you're up there at Elvis competitions, you've got to impress people. Yeah. And if you don't sound like Elvis, well, buddy, you should put on a good show at least.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. That makes sense. And I never looked at it that way, like in the sense of like when I go to live concerts or whatever, I go mainly because like I like listening to the band, right? I never really like look at the visuals of it. Mm-hmm. But now that you said that, next time I'm at a concert, I'm gonna like really pay attention to the whole, just everything that's kind of going on. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, some bands are great at just standing there and playing music, and you're captivated, and you'll go back for just that. But like sometimes it's just like snooze fest. Yeah, you're just like, man, fuck, it's 10 p.m. right now, and I could be in my underwear eating a bag of chips on my couch, and then you know what? And you're like, I'm gonna go do that. Yeah.
I suppose you want to keep them there captivated, right? Yeah. That makes sense. I'm just going to check that real quick. I'm worried about the lighting in here because usually I leave this open to make natural light, but these are working as diffusers, so it should be fine. Man, you kind of answered like 4 questions at the start. I love it though. I love it. So like, you kind of went over where you draw your inspiration from or how you started writing music, right? But like music nowadays, like where do you draw inspiration from? Not in the sense of like other musicians, but like for me, when I edit photos, I have to be in a certain atmosphere. I have to kind of feel a certain way. Like, is that the same way with music?
Absolutely. I mean, I draw inspiration from everything, you know, and it could be, a little thing you hear on the radio maybe, or something someone says. And it's just like, oh, and then something clicks in you. You're like, oh, I want to write about that. Mm-hmm. Like someone said something to me recently, and he said, oh, he's just making regrets in real time. And I was like, that's a hard hitting lyric. And I just like, just things like that. And sometimes, and I mean, like, I'm a sucker to the Spotify lords, but like, you go on like the Discovery playlist and you hear something like way out of left field, and you're like, oh, okay, that's really cool. I wonder how I can kind of, draw inspiration. Because when I wrote the first album, I was listening to a lot of classic country, like a lot of George Jones, a lot of Hank Williams, and then like a lot of like the newer like kind of classic country guys, like Dan Romano was doing like some classic country stuff, Charlie Crockett, just all sorts of, and I drew a lot of inspiration from that because that's just what I loved at the time. Yeah. Then when Waitin' came around, I was listening to a lot of like New Orleans and like Fats Domino and more of that early rock kind of stuff. Yeah. And I was like, oh, I want to draw inspiration from that. And now, I don't know. I've been writing a little bit, and I don't even know what it's sounding like yet. But it will be different. But I mean, it does. We never know exactly what it's going to sound like till I bring it to the rest of the gang.
Yeah, because your guys' albums have kind of been quite different from one to another.
Yeah.
Right. Like your first one is amazing. Your second one, obviously, they're all good, but like Waiting is completely different from like Last Night or whatever.
Yeah,
right?
3-4.
Like,
yeah,
it's you know, complete opposites. But that's cool how you draw. Like I suppose like whatever you're listening to kind of does make sense. You know, it kind of gives you that kind of feel, and that's what you come up with.
Yeah,
right?
and then like, but when you get to play with like such great musicians, it's like they add so much to it that you might even not even think of.
Mm-hmm.
Because it was Connor that really got me into like the Dead, and like we've been like incorporating a little bit more of that looseness, kind of see what happens attitude to the set as well, which is exciting. It's funny that you bring up 3-4, and you said Last Night, but that brings a funny story because we did the album 3-4, and it's pretty twangy.
Mm-hmm.
But there's this song right smack dab in the middle called Last Night. It's a doo-wop song. And I was like, oh man, we love that doo-wop song. And I said, okay, well, if you love the doo-wop song, I'm going to give you more.
Yeah.
So I write Waitin', and I write like Caught Up. And they're kind of like these like, ooh, ah, ooh, ah. And they kind of like surfy, kind of the best way I could describe it is the movie That Thing You Do, if you've ever seen that. It's great.
I haven't. No,
great
I'm
film.
going to look it up now.
Great film. And then I wrote this one tearjerker, just country tune, like straight country, called Highway Number 2. And then I released this doo-wop album because that's what I think that people want. And there was like, oh man, we love that country song. So it's like, okay, well, maybe I'll put some more country on the next album. Or I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what it's going to be like. Maybe it'll be like Simon and Garfunkel. Who knows? It could be anything.
That would be interesting.
Take a few steps back.
I don't know. Someone told me that your father was a pastor before. Is that right?
Yeah.
So your music, did you grow up in a Christian household? Or?
Yeah.
Yeah. So is that something that you kind of draw a little bit of inspiration from? Is like a little bit of gospel? Because you do have, I think, or you might have sung one. I don't know if you have one, but more of like a. Or no, that was the guys before you. I think they were talking about having a gospel song, but you don't have any like.
Not straight out gospel songs, no. I mean, I have a song called Gospel, but it's only called Gospel because it kind of sounds like a gospel song.
Mm-hmm.
But I do have a song on the first album called The Meeting Place, which is kind of the tale of my experience with the church, and more so my father's experience with the church.
Okay, yeah.
Because he'd founded this church in Fredericton in 95.
Okay.
So I was 1. And it was called The Meeting Place. And Dad was, the main guy, preacher, minister, if you will. It was, my dad's an ordained Baptist minister, but he's not super Baptist. Like, I hate the term non-denominational, but like, he didn't care if you danced. Yeah. He's pretty, even, well, more so today, pretty liberal. But anyway, there was this group out of England called NFI, Newfound, I don't know, something, just a bunch of these guys. Anyway, my dad fell in love with their idea of, they wanted to help my dad plant more of the meeting places around Canada, whatever. So he signed on with these guys. They came over, and Dad was always an entertainer. Mm-hmm. He started out doing singing telegrams for this woman who run a company called Perfect Parties by Nancy. Okay. So Dad would either dress up as a clown, or he had this like kind of like hobo looking character, and he had a nerd character, and he would just show up. He'd get hired to do like parties. He'd make balloon animals, do face paint, whatever. And he was at the costume store one day, and he saw this big goofy Elvis costume. So he buys it. Mm-hmm. And he kind of adds Elvis into his repertoire. And he's a singer, he's a musician. So he was singing, and people were like, hey, you know what, man, you're pretty good. I mean, you look dumb, but you're pretty good. So in Owens, just outside of Owen Sound in Ontario, at a place called Collingwood, Ontario, there is an Elvis impersonating competition that Dad joined. Anyway, this changed our lives. I mean, I saw Dad up there performing for literal thousands of people. Yeah. That day I saw that, we went and got my first little costume. the rest is history. But the thing that was interesting about that is Dad kind of started doing more Elvis stuff because people loved it. So he would go play at Frank's Finer Diner down when it was on Main Street here.
Yep.
I would go with him, and all these ladies would be like, "What do you do? What do you do?" He's like, "Wow, I'm a minister." "Oh, well, we have to come to your church," kind of thing. Like, this is amazing. We have to hear you preach. And he was an exceptional speaker. And he met so many people that he changed their lives, just like from meeting him through music and stuff, and be like, "Oh, well, I have this church and you should come out." And they would come, and it was like, basically my dad wanted a church for people who didn't go to church. That was his kind of thing. Because, you can preach to a congregation all you want about God and everything, but there's great lessons in there, but what he wanted to do was kind of open people's eyes to the teachings of Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
And kind of get away from this kind of like Old Testament kind of, backwards looking. So
Absolutely.
he found people through music and whatever. Anyway, the church saw this and they're like, "No, you can't be impersonating Elvis. Like, this is like, it's ungodly." So they were like, "We're going to like kind of let you step back as minister. This guy is going to take over and you're going to do kids church and whatever." So my dad's like, "Fuck, if you're going to maybe do kids church, I'm going to entertain too." So he would always be like blowing up balloons for kids as kids were leaving. Then they were all pissed at my dad because he wasn't spending enough time with the adults. And so they were all just kind of like really pissed off about him. So my dad kind of developed this really bad anxiety disorder. And they even sent someone over to our house once. And my dad got an Elvis calendar for Christmas. This person they sent over to our house for dinner, we thought it was a friendly dinner, go back and report back to the church that we're worshiping Elvis as a false idol. We have shrines and stuff. Yeah. And I'm like, I lived it. We did not. We liked Elvis, but like, come on. Anyway, so they actually tried to perform an exorcism on my father to try and get the demons out, because they were thinking his panic attacks were coming from Satan. Yeah. They thought he was possessed by the devil. They thought, they told my dad he wasn't anointed, that he didn't have it anymore, and that the church didn't want him. So it's either he kind of gave up the bit or he resigns. Wow. So I remember my dad and I were sitting in the front seat, and he was like, I kind of have to make a decision here. It's either because I was little, I would have been 8. Yeah. So the way he dumbed it down for me was, it's either we stop doing our Elvis thing or I stay at the church. And I remember just bawling my eyes out. I liked church as a kid. I got to hang out with my friends. I don't know what the fuck was going on really, but like, it was part of my life. I went my whole childhood, and I remember just bawling my eyes out and be like, "But Dad, we can't stop doing this. This is what we do. This is our thing." So he ended up resigning, and that put a big strain on our lives. Having Dad go from having this cushy job to us living in poverty. Like, we had a nice house because he bought it when he was in the church, but the shit my dad would have to do just to make sure the lights stayed on, where it was insane. Like, he had to sell newspapers, and like he ended up like starting to supply preach. He took on like just like shit jobs, and just to try and make things work, because his passion has always been music and to talk to people and to reach out to people. He's still a follower of Jesus, what he calls himself, because he doesn't, I don't want to put words in his mouth, but like he wants to live by kind of the word of Jesus Christ, which is like kind of badass, because Jesus was like a super hippie, right? He seemed like a pretty rad dude, and I've met with them since to kind of just tell them that, fuck you. Yeah. You've kind of ruined a part of my life, and you for what, It's like, you haven't never reached out to me, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, trying to kind of coming to terms more with it as I get older, but yeah, it was really shitty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what sucks too. I was talking with somebody the other night about, I was downtown. I go downtown to play pool sometimes, and because I don't party or anything, but I'm always by the bars and I meet people. So I met this girl, and I was talking to her, and then she got talking about how she's a Christian and all this stuff, and then she's like, "But I don't go to church." And I find a lot of people that follow faith find they have like a bad experience with a church, right? And it's all churches type thing. And sometimes that even pulls them away from faith. So it's nice to hear that your dad kind of like still, like, obviously you believe in that and that's it. You know what I mean? Like, you don't need a church. Church is just like, it's like training wheels. It just helps you.
Right.
If you dive yourself into the book and you're there and you do everything that you need to, I find that that's important too, right? But no, someone was telling me, because I told them I was gonna have you on, and they were like, yeah, his dad used to be a pastor. And I was like, no way.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm gonna ask.
Yeah.
But that's crazy though. Like,
yeah. So I mean, like, I don't go to church or anything anymore. I'm like, I guess, like, more of an agnostic, but because of my background in church, and I also, developed really bad anxiety disorder, obsessive compulsive disorder, major depressive disorder, and I kind of link it all back to that, really. So I did a lot of, like, diving into even different religions, because like, just kind of like see what's out there, and it just seems like, for me, there's such a common thread through everything good, and it's like, just be a good person.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it just, I think it's just so much less complicated than it needs to be. And I've always said that, like, I'm a spiritual person, and I don't believe there's, nothing when we die. But I always say, like, if I'm going to go to hell for, things that the church would tell me I'm going to hell for, but I've lived a good life and I've been a good person, and it's like, then so be it. Mm-hmm. So what, I had sex before I got married.
Yeah. See, I that's like Old Testament stuff. I don't believe in any of that. I mean, obviously, like, tattoos, like, Old Testament says that you're not supposed to get tattoos, but it says it because, like, culty things, right?
Right.
It doesn't say, like, these are art pieces, right? They're not, I'm not worshiping an astronaut god or something. Yeah. But things like that. So you answered that question too. So there we go. And you answered that one, man. Like, it's like you've done this before or something.
I've done it a lot, man.
Actually, when I was down in St. John, I met a girl.
Ooh.
And not like business wise,
okay,
because she might listen to this. But you were on their podcast.
Oh, was it Kate?
Yeah. No. The other one, Charisse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Strange Grooves.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. No.
Shout out.
Super cool.
Yeah, they're wicked. They're doing good work.
They are, and they just had one release today. But she gave me contacts for people I needed, right? So.
Yeah, man, they're awesome. They're very, 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 very smart and very, very good at what they do, and they're killing it.
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. No, she was saying, yeah, we'll have to get you on our podcast. And I was like, yeah, but I'm not a musician, because a lot of their stuff has been musician based. She's like, yeah, but you're the only other podcaster that we found in this area, right?
And who knows, collabs too. Like they go all over the place and interview bands, and like, they're fucking awesome.
I'm hoping one day, if I keep the grind up, right? So what's something that you would have went through, right? That writing music has helped you get through. So, like, something, I guess how I have it here is the hardest thing you went through that creating music has helped you through.
Yeah. Well, the hardest thing I went through was, I don't talk about it publicly very much, but just like, a couple years ago, my brother had to leave the band. And that just led to just a fucking shit storm. Mm-hmm. And I won't get into it, but that's been really, really hard to cope with, deal with the aftermath. Like, we haven't really talked in 2 years. And just trying to navigating that, like, with my family. He doesn't come around my family very much, and my mom. And it's even weird that I'm saying this, but, like, I don't know. I've been trying to write about it, but I don't want it to come off as, like, anger, because I'm not angry. I want it to come off as love, right? So, juggling that, because having anger, like, I feel angry, but I'm not an angry person. I don't get angry, and I want to approach, that situation with, like, open arms.
Yeah,
but it takes two to tango. So it's kind of like, that's kind of the hardest thing I've dealt with. But the issue is I'm still dealing with it.
Mm-hmm.
So until, that really comes to head, I don't know. Other than that, I'm like the classic fucking country singer that, oh, I had my heart broken. Here's a ding, 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 ding. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that's just life, That just happens.
Mm-hmm.
Losing touch with a family member doesn't happen all the time.
No.
That fucking sucks. So navigating that, figuring out how to, get the family back together without being angry is kind of, the next move.
That makes sense though.
Yeah.
And that would be something hard to kind of to put into a song, right? Because like you said, you don't want it to sound angry, but it might sound like that because like you said, it's a situation that's kind of gray.
Yeah.
I guess is
like
what it would be, right?
I'm not angry. I get angry sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
I'll stew. And it's like, oh, come on. Like, bleh. That's just to me though. That's just to myself.
Yeah.
And, but my dad gave me the best advice when I was a kid, and I've always stuck by it, and it's cool heads prevail.
Mm-hmm.
No matter what happens, chill out. Just take a minute. Take a day.
Mm-hmm.
Take 2 days, and then you can talk about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because how many times have you, been angry, and he said something, and you immediately like, oh, why did he even say that? I remember when I was I was late into my I hate my parents phase.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna say early 20s or late teens even. And I remember sometimes I would just snap at my mom, and it's 2 seconds later, that's your fucking mom, dude. What are you thinking?
Yeah.
If you just had thought about that for 2 seconds, you wouldn't feel like an ass right now.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I don't know.
Yeah, I think we've all experienced that, where you say something, you're like, oh, no, I wish I didn't say that. So you answered that one. This is a good one. So what's something that you have went through, right? Or something that's happened that's almost made you quit music? Because I can tell you're really passionate about music.
Nothing.
Really?
No, I couldn't. I could never quit music. It's who I am.
Yeah.
It's a part of me, just as breathing and thankfully seeing and smelling and hearing. It's one of my senses. It's I love music. I love to sing.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. Pisses my girlfriend off sometimes because I just sing things that I see sometimes, and my whole family kind of is that way, especially with me, my brother, and my dad, who are active musicians. It's just a part of me, and and I think my dad kind of led by such an amazing example,
mm-hmm.
especially with the stuff that happened with the church, and even through that, he's like, you know what, man, I'm gonna fucking sing.
Yeah.
That's cool, and that was always ingrained in me. And my parents, I grew up with the most amazing parents. Are no matter what, do what you feel is right and do what you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I took a risk, leaving school and just wanting to play music. I've had to work shit jobs. I still work.
Mm-hmm.
I love my job, but I still I have to fucking grind all summer long. I'm on the road sometimes for weeks at a time. Then I come back and it's right back to work.
Yeah.
And I, some days that gets a little frustrating, but nothing, would make me want to quit music.
Okay.
I thought about quitting touring once when I was drinking really bad. But that's about it.
That's not quitting music though. So that's
No.
good that, and touring, that must be hard too. You know what I mean? Because you look at some of these big bands, obviously they're flying to their places and they're staying in 5-star hotels, whatever. Are you guys are driving, right? Most of them?
Yeah, most of them. I mean, when we went down to Texas, we did fly down.
Mm-hmm.
But we definitely didn't stay in a 5-star hotel. We did stay at a nice Airbnb though.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we drive, but it's the Hypochondriacs are a big, dysfunctional, awesome family, and I wouldn't want to be on the road really with anyone else.
Yeah.
So we have a lot of fun, and it's a really good group of people. They're good people. I feel very safe around them,
Mm-hmm.
and I trust them with my life. So it could be worse. You could be in a band with a bunch of assholes who are out, like till 4 or 5 in the morning, snorting coke all night and stuff. It's like, that's not us. We're all right. Show's over. We're gonna go back, order a pizza.
Yeah.
Go to bed.
See, that's cool.
Yeah.
And you seem like that too. Like just the interactions on stage. It seems like you guys are like a family, right? Which is cool to see. And I think that's what makes people enjoy your music more. In this, like, it's the sense that like you guys are real, right? Like you're not. I mean, obviously, when you get on stage, you have to hype up a little bit, be a little hyper. But that's you guys. That's how you are.
Yeah,
for the most part, right?
Absolutely.
And I think that's cool. So like with the whole music industry and stuff, and like touring and writing music, has that affected mental health in any sense? Like,
yeah, I mean, again, it's so easy to get caught up in a lot when you're on the road, or just playing bars and stuff. You drink too much, and you're hungover the next day, and you feel like shit. Then you don't give a good performance. Then you're like, shit, I didn't give a good performance because I'm hungover. Or I didn't give a good performance because I drank too much before the show. And that, it does, plays a really hard toll on the mental health.
Mm-hmm.
But as someone who has suffered with mental health issues, I would say my whole life, over the past 20 years, I'm only 29, it was kind of like, how do I deal with my anxiety while also being a musician? Because I went into it already anxious. So, it took a lot. It took a lot and many years of making dumb mistakes and not doing the right thing before kind of just being like, okay, now it's time to smarten up, take the pills your doctor gave you. That works for me, and I'm not saying that works for everyone, but you need to prioritize yourself, and it's been a hard journey. Still not perfect.
Yeah.
I still drink too much sometimes for a show, or after a show, or I go show off, or I come hungover, whatever. That's an issue, but like, I'm tenfold better than I was before.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I spoke on a panel about it too at Music New Brunswick, just kind of like talking about burnout and what that is and what it feels like and how do you cope with that. And there's no right answer. There's no wrong answer. Well, I guess there could be some wrong answers if your coping mechanisms are super unhealthy. But I felt weird because I felt like I wasn't at a place to tell people, because I'm not a success story, right? With my mental health, I'm on a journey, but I think that works for people who are going through a really hard time, to be like, look, I've been to the lowest of lows, but now I'm not there anymore. I'm not great, but I'm not bad. You know what I mean? Like, I can wake up in the morning and be like, all right, I can get out of bed today.
Yeah.
And there was a while there, probably about a 2-year span, where it was like, I can't do this. I can't get out of bed. Can't do it. Someone go to the liquor store for me, please, kind of thing. And then, then you see your parents are disappointed, your bandmates are disappointed, you're not performing well. It's like, well, then you just kind of smarten up.
Yeah. So do you find that that's helped you, like being around such a good group of people in your band, and obviously your parents too, right?
Absolutely.
So do you feel like that's kind of the rope pulling you back over?
Absolutely. And I mean, I wouldn't be here without them. I wouldn't be, I've had Kelly and Janine come over to my house while I was crying in bed because I was, just so depressed. I've had, my whole band come over when I'm going through a hard time. Just not even talking about what's wrong, but just like hanging out, and they were just such a great group of people, and it does help. And I think we all help each other. Like I said, the band is dysfunctional. And when I mean that, it's like we all get along real well, but we all have our issues.
Yeah.
None of us are perfect, So we need each other. We make a weird balance somehow.
But it works out.
Yeah, it works.
Perfect. Yeah. So looking back, like when you were a kid, right? Like obviously, like you said, that first time you stepped up on that stage and you were like, you and your guitar and you were singing some Elvis songs and you were like, I need this. This is what I'm doing. Before then, like when you were like obviously music's been in your life your whole life.
Yeah.
Could you imagine that you would have been, would have been where you are now? I think I worded that right? Yeah.
Sounded right to me. No.
No. Okay.
No, I remember even when I was in like high school, I was like, I want to play the main stage of Harvest. That's it. That's my goal. And then it happened. Mm-hmm. Then all of a sudden it's like, all right, we're flying you down to Texas, going to South by Southwest. Holy shit.
Yeah.
I never would have thought that would happen. Like I remember getting music magazines and South by Southwest had a whole thing. It was huge. Mm-hmm. And no, I would never, ever would have thought I would have gotten here.
Yeah.
So, no, I'm like super happy and I'm super honored and like very humbled by the whole thing. And I'm very aware that there's still a lot of work to do. Mm-hmm. And don't just coast now. You know, you got to grind. It's a grind. You got to work.
Yeah.
Got to work. Keep writing. Keep playing. Don't be an asshole.
Mm-hmm. That's some good words. Yeah. That's good words. Yeah. So now, like, Harvest was the first stage you wanted, right? That was like the big stage.
Yeah.
Before all this. And then, so South by Southwest happened.
That was pretty cool.
So now, what are you feeling that is the next something you would want? Like, in the sense of, like, there's lots of stages out there. You know what I mean?
There are lots of stages, and I have been so lucky to play so many stages that are equally as great as Harvest and some big festivals, you know, to lots of people. And that's great. And that's a high, you know, that's a real high. That's a great feeling.
Yeah.
My kind of short-term goal, like 5-term goals, I would love to be a supporting act to like a big band.
Oh, okay.
Go on the road with someone else, you know? I think that would be really cool. And I think that would, you know, open a lot of doors for maybe people that wouldn't have seen you. Because you've probably gone to a lot of shows. How many times the opener where you see the opener and you're like, holy shit, they were amazing. You buy their CD. Yeah. So you already have all the headliners' CDs. You know what I mean? It's like
this is true.
Yeah. I think that's
multiple times.
Yeah, exactly. And that's awesome.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I've been like trying to push. You know, would love to, like, I don't even know who.
Yeah, because you guys don't have, like you said at the start, you don't have a genre. Like, you guys are so versatile in the sense of, like, what you produce, right? Like, you could be a country, like, a hardcore country fan and listen to your stuff and be like, yeah, this is good. You could be like that, what'd you call it, doo-wop,
Americana, yeah, whatever, yeah. I mean, it's all related, right? And we can even go back to talking about gospel music again. I mean, in my mind, I know there's lots that came before, like Southern gospel music. Mm-hmm. But for me, that's where rock and roll started. Because you had, you know, in the South, you had your white people, you had your black people. There was segregation. Mm-hmm. They had gospel music. White gospel music sounded a lot different than black gospel music.
Yeah, it did.
But they were both great.
Yeah.
So then you had these white kids sneaking into black churches, hearing their gospel music and being like, holy shit.
Yeah.
So then these white guys take their twang, start singing black people music, and all of a sudden you get rhythm and blues, and then you have like, then this whole thing just like, it was like this huge kind of snowball that just like, then rock and roll came, and like that kind of classic country, that all came from white gospel music.
Yeah.
You know, and like the blues came from black gospel music, and it was all about both country and blues were people going through a hard time and singing about it. Mm-hmm. And then those people kind of met in the middle and like, let's write music together. And then it's like, oh shit, there's rock and roll. Then you get Johnny Cash. And then there's these people who are like, fuck the system. We love Johnny Cash. There's punk music. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? It just like, it's insane.
I suppose it does build off of like one little just.
It's insane.
I never really kind of broke it down in that sense, but now.
And those old rockabilly guys, man, that's like early punk, early metal. Mm-hmm. It's like those guitar riffs weren't a thing. Like, look at, like, from Chuck Berry to Jimi Hendrix. And, like, Jimi Hendrix would inspire, like, all those early metal guys. And then those early metal guys, then you get, like, the heavy metal and the black metal and, like, all, like, this stuff. And it's, like, I don't know. I love it. I love thinking it like that. Maybe I'm wrong. This is my theory.
Yeah, no, it's a good theory.
But it's kind of, like, because I sometimes will be driving. Like I said, I'm a bit of an agnostic man. And But I love old gospel music.
Mhm.
Oh, so good.
Like
Yeah.
now, how old are we talking? Like I'll Fly Away type.
Yeah, I love that old like kind of bluegrassy type of gospel
Yeah.
music. I love like the southern gospel music, especially like even like because Elvis introduced me to a lot of music, and he introduced me to southern gospel. He sang all those like "Why don't you swing down, sweet chariot, stop and let me." And he whitewashed it, and then you find the real version. You're like, holy shit! Now, okay, now I can feel that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, like I love it all. Yeah.
you're super whatever to music. I can tell. Like you're very passionate about it.
I just like it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like what I like.
Yeah.
And I like a lot of things.
That works. So like what are some collaborations that you would either as a solo act or a group, but like someone you would love to work with, dead or alive?
Dead or alive?
Dead. Well, we'll do alive first because, yeah.
Oh, man. I don't even know. I'm not good at this. There's a guy named Neil Francis I would like to work with. I would like for him to play piano on my record. It's coming to Harvest too. Check him out. I would love to work... I would love to work with... I don't know.
What about dead or alive?
Jerry Garcia.
That was easy.
Elvis Presley.
Yeah.
Jerry Lee Lewis. Little Richard.
So there's a list there.
Oh, yeah. But I mean, yeah, some of those guys.
Crazy. And Neil Francis play some piano.
Oh, dude, yeah, because I said earlier about how like I'm a sucker for Spotify.
Mm-hmm.
I was on Spotify and there's this song came out. It's called "These Are the Days," and I'm like, oh man, this is an old cool song from like Chicago style song from like probably the 60s or 70s.
Mm-hmm.
No, the album had just come out. And I was like, this guy is insane. I messaged him on Facebook. I was like, if you're ever on the East Coast of Canada, man, I would love to open for you. Anyways, manager messaged me back. And they're like, he's not really on here. But, you never know. Now he's huge.
Yeah.
And I'm not opening for him.
Hey, you never know. Maybe you meet him at the Harvest
maybe
or something.
somebody will drop out and I'll get the gig. I don't know.
That'd be pretty cool. But no, thank you for being on. Like this is kind of like we're rounding about an hour. It was pretty good.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Time flies.
Man, once you get a good conversation going, it's just like whoop.
I know, and I get rambling and I start seeing things and then I'm just like, why don't we go back to that conversation we had 20 minutes ago?
Yeah, no, that's fine. I do it too. Having these podcasts kind of help me kind of like
structure conversation.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like I'm real bad in public. I'll just be like, hey, yeah, talk about one thing and then I'll hop back over here. It's like can't do that on here.
But the greatest collab that's happening right now is the Mike Bravener and Josh Bravener show.
That is happening.
It is. We are doing it. I mean, this probably won't be out. We're doing it on Friday.
Oh, okay. This Friday.
Yeah.
Is that over the Tannery? No.
No, the Hypochondriacs playing the Tannery, but Dad and I we're putting together a show, and it kind of happened by happenstance where our friends bought a bed and breakfast in St. Andrews called Salty Towers.
Okay.
Salty Towers is owned by a guy named Jamie Steele before, who his son's Owen Steele. Both of them are great musicians. And their house was like, their bed and breakfast was like the place for musicians to go and stay.
Okay.
It was owned by musicians. Musicians stayed there. There was jams. They have recordings that happen there. It's a legacy. It's an institution. Anyway, Jamie ended up selling to some family friends of ours.
Ooh.
That I've known for ever. And this guy's a wicked piano player. And so they wanted to get the house concerts back up and going. So they asked if Dad and I would do a father-son show for Father's Day.
Mm-hmm.
And we're like, sure. So Dad and I started shooting the shit about like, well, how do we do this? Like we both like we can do some like old country songs. We'll start with that. And then maybe we'll do some of our own. It was really loose. So on the drive out, we're kind of talking more about it. Well, what should we do? He's like, why don't we do the first set, just covers that we like.
Mm-hmm.
And songs that inspired us. And I was like, okay, cool. Then we went back and forth. We tell stories. And then the second set, we, kind of tell stories of our own tunes.
Mm-hmm.
My dad, he has a couple albums out that do traditional New Brunswick folk music.
Okay.
talking about the Miramichi River and stuff. And
Mm-hmm.
so he does a lot of that stuff, and I tell a lot of stories. And there was a lot of crying. We actually did it last weekend. A lot of crying there. So I think it's going to be a good show. And I think we want to try to, take it around a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
That's exciting, though.
Yeah, and it's been great because I haven't really played with my dad in a long time. Because when I was, doing hypo stuff, I would play guitar with him for his rockabilly stuff. And I'm not a sick picker or anything. So then I started playing piano with him. Not a great piano player either, but he always kind of wanted to keep me. He's Stream's a family band,
Mm-hmm.
Aaron on drums, me on keys or guitar. So we kind of tried that out, and I'm just not good enough. But then I got really busy with the hypos, and he got really busy with his folk music, and kind of lost sight of that possibility. And then he kind of saw the Joel Plaskett and his dad album. He's like, that might be cool if we did something like that one day. I'm like, I would love to do that with you. And then this opportunity came up, and we had so much fun, and we laughed so hard. And I didn't cry. Dad cried a lot.
Oh, okay, I got you.
I'm a tough nut to crack.
That's cool, though. That's
Yeah.
exciting. And kind of like full circle, right? Like you're introduced to music because your dad plays music, and then you kind of like separate and play your own thing, and then now you're coming around to like, playing music together again. And
yeah, and we get to do that old rockabilly country stuff that we did.
yeah.
But then we get to kind of like tell stories and share experiences, like kind of what's happened since.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been it's a really good show if anybody's listening and wants a tearjerker at their next event.
Hint, 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 people. Hint, hint.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna check this. Yeah, we're good. But anything you want to add? Any shout outs to any social media? Obviously, you gotta give that plug.
We're on all the social medias. The Hypochondriacs, look us up. We don't have too much to plug right now. We're just back from touring, and we're looking forward to getting writing, and hopefully have a new album, within, probably 2025, new record, and tour the hell out of that when we can. But that's it. Shout out to the Hypochondriacs. Shout out to Mase and Paul.
Thank you.
The one and only. And appreciate having me.
Yeah, no, like I said, this was a must-have when I started this, and after I was in the hospital, and you were talking on the phone, and you're like, your voice is really nice. You should do audiobooks.
Yeah, because you Snapchatted me with how you stabbed yourself.
Yeah, so I had
your voice is amazing, man.
Yeah, I had
the podcast,
the throat thing down my throat, and after that, it's like your voice is like really, like soothing, I guess.
It was.
But no, this has been fun. Lots of information, lots of cool stuff. And you guys make sure to follow the Late Late Podcast on Instagram and Mase in Real Life, obviously. And definitely check out the Hypochondriacs on Instagram, all the socials, wherever you can find them.
On all the things.
On all the things. And you guys, when's the show at the Tannery?
That's Friday What's this coming Friday?
I don't know. That's a good
18th.
18th.
Friday the 18th. Would this be out by then?
Yeah, it will. Yeah. Next Monday it'll be out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, no, this is this Friday.
Oh, frig. Are we the 18th? Oh my, yeah.
Yeah, dude.
Okay, you guys missed it.
It was the best show. You will never guess what I did with my shirt.
I love it. All right, guys, you have an awesome time. Bye.